The Spurs seem to be the answer to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Cooper Flagg delivers a big win for the Mavs. 28 teams played on Tuesday night. We're covering all in Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. On Wednesdays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and the host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
And I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Happy holidays to everybody here. And look, you got your presents early if you're an NBA fan, because 28 teams, 14 games. Only the Celtics and Warriors did not play on Tuesday night. You didn't watch it all. We know you didn't. We did. We're going to cover it all for you with the other experts from Locked On. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. John, I think we just got to jump into everything here because
no small talk, all business. Let's go.
It's just all gas, no brakes, and it starts with the San Antonio Spurs beating the Oklahoma City Thunder 130-110. Let's get to it here.
Of course, right here from Locked On Spurs here at the Frost Bank Center. It was the Clash of Titans. It was the rest matchup that everybody's looking forward to. Round 2, Spurs Thunder. If you thought it would be close, you might have been right, except for the Spurs had other plans. The Spurs pretty much just broke the Thunder in the game, beating them 130-110. You heard that right. What was key for me? 3 things. 1, the fourth period. Talked to Luke Cornett, talked to Keldon Johnson, asking him, is this a mindset now of this team developing a killer instinct? Why did I bring that up? Because they outscored the Thunder, the team that causes more defensive issues, more turnovers, causes more turnovers, one of the best defensive rated teams. Yeah, outscoring the Thunder 43-28 in the final frame. That's point number 1 for me, is how this team closed out the game. They didn't wilt. They didn't see any leads evaporate, as we've been seeing the last 2 games. Overall, this was a solid way to close out a game against the #1 seeded OKC Thunder. So good job, Spurs. Point number 2, again, proving they don't need Victor Wembanyama as much as they might have needed in past games. He only logged in 23 minutes off the bench once again. Did the Spurs, merely got a W with the minimal Wemby. That just goes to the depth of this Spurs team. From Devin Vassell, 17 points, to Harrison Barnes' 20, to Stephon Castle's 24 points. He was a plus 12 on the night, too. And off the bench, Keldon Johnson with 25 points. This team just flexed their depth against the Thunder, who many consider have more depth in the NBA. I contend that pound for pound, this Spurs team is talent-wise just as good as the Thunder. Point number 3, why I love this Spurs win, is that they didn't allow the Thunder to make any type of Thunder runs. You rarely saw anything. There's only 15 lead changes and 13 ties this game, and the Spurs' biggest lead was 21. Yeah, biggest lead was 21 points against the Thunder. So you got to love that from San Antonio again. Building up leads and maintaining it, and the Spurs did that. Hopefully the Spurs get another W this Christmas Day in Oklahoma City and go 3-0 versus the Thunder. Can you imagine that? This is Jeff Garcia with Locked On Spurs.
That would be something, by the way. Let's go over to Locked On Thunder for their take.
The Oklahoma City Thunder fall again to the San Antonio Spurs. Half of their losses have came to San Antonio. This team is good.
That's
folks.
a ridiculous
The Spurs
thing.
continue to make the Thunder just irrelevant offensively. They can get no consistency. They can't get anything going. The half-court offense gets muddied up and murky. They don't have enough three-point shooters to consistently get them to fall whenever you can't get into the paint on Victor. Only Shai can really get there. And then tonight, the Thunder did not have enough physicality in the paint. The Spurs were the way more disciplined team. They executed better. And they were the more aggressive team, and that's a great thing for San Antonio. So it led to the free throw disparity. It led to the Spurs blowout win. It led to the first blowout loss for OKC of this season. Now, obviously, people are going to take this game and talk about how the Thunder have a Spurs problem. This is a unique matchup for Oklahoma City. They match up exceptionally well with the Thunder. Problem might be a bit too far, but anything short of problem is way fair game. This Spurs team can compete. This Spurs team can contend with Oklahoma City and every other team in the West come playoff time because of Wemby and because their collection of talent. They did a great job turning OKC over. Nobody really had it tonight besides Shai and Lou hitting timely threes. Credit to Lou Dort for bouncing back after his brutally cold start to the year. But ultimately, OKC loses again, and in the court of public perception, Thursday's a must-win. Obviously not really a must-win game for a team that's only lost 4 times, but if you want to try to reel back in the narrative, you got to win Thursday in OKC.
John, real or fake? Is it a must-win for OKC? It is a must-win for OKC on Thursday?
Fake, because, I mean, yeah, I get why you'd say that, but it's still like, look, you're the Thunder and you're fine. It is interesting. It really is interesting that they are struggling as much as they are against the Spurs, but the Spurs are a great defensive team. They got a size. Size has tended to bother the Thunder, but they're still okay. There's no must wins prior to, like Christmas. Okay, I'm sorry, it's fake.
It's probably fake, but like it's not as fake as I thought it would be. Having heard this, actually, like, Rylan there says like, oh, the Thunder don't have a Spurs problem. If they lose on Thursday, they kind of do. Like, yeah. He says it's a unique matchup, but like all it takes is the unique matchup in the playoffs, and you lose, and you could beat everybody else. So it's not ideal.
Here's the problem for OKC. There hasn't been a lot of Wemby. You know what I mean? Like that.
12 points in this one, and 12 points in this one. He only played 23 minutes.
0 blocks. It's not like he dominated.
Ideal, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he had a streak of like 101 games blocking a shot. So that ended. But it's if you want to play into they have a Spurs problem. This has been while Wemby is coming back from the injury, and it's not great when Spurs without Wemby is still a problem for you, because theoretically Wemby will be there in full in a playoff series. If that's how this goes, that would be very much a problem, and you don't want that narrative. But on the Thunder side, I will say this. It's kind of good for them to have something to fight against. This is a team that everybody has been going nuts for. They're obviously the champs. They're obviously the favorites. Having some adversity this season like this, not the worst thing in the world.
No, probably not. Look, they got to figure that team out. They got a reason to do it now, I guess, in a sense. All right, let's go to the West Coast for the late night game here, and that is the Houston Rockets losing to the Clippers 128-108. Let's go over to Locked On Clippers.
Dome as the Clippers just got maybe their best win of the season, a commanding win against the Houston Rockets by, I believe, 20 points in the end. Forgot the final score. Kawhi Leonard was virtuoso, 41 points, could not be guarded. And the biggest thing for me is the defensive effort level from the entire team. This was the first game without Ivica Zubac, who was going to be missing 3 weeks with an ankle sprain. And everyone's defensive effort was on a trillion tonight. I mean, John Collins rotating really fast, Chris Dunn fighting over screens, Brook Lopez being serviceable. I mean, it was like, I don't know what got into this team these last 2 games, but it makes you wonder, where has this been? Where has this fight been for 4 quarters? And I think a lot of it starts with Kawhi Leonard. I think him being a 30-plus point per game scorer versus a 25-point per game scorer makes a big difference. So, big win for the Clips. That's 2 in a row. Could this be the start of a turnaround? Check out Locked On Clippers.
Let's go over to Locked On Rockets.
The Houston Rockets get totally blown out by the LA Clippers. What's up? This is Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets. And look, I don't even have a final score for you because it's 126-102. Still a couple minutes left to play in the game. This game was just a mess for the Rockets. Another horrendous loss to a team with a single-digit win record. They lost to the 5-win Pelicans, then the 6-win Kings, now the 7-win Clippers. So I guess that's improvement, if you want to look at it that way. Offensively, even though there were, decent games for Alperen Sengun, Kevin Durant, kind of on an individual basis, the Rockets really struggled to convert from beyond the arc. And then defensively, they had zero answer for Kawhi Leonard, a vintage Kawhi game in this one. He got whatever he wanted against the Rockets defense, and the Clippers were just scorching hot from beyond the arc. Played an incredible second half of basketball where they really separated and turned this game into a total blowout. The Rockets have lost their defensive identity that Ime Udoka spent the past 2 years cultivating and building here in Houston, and they desperately need to find it if they want to be taken seriously again.
Yeah, this was not a Rockets team that should be struggling like this.
No, but you know what? It's part of a reminder of how early they are in this process. And I know they're go for it now. They traded for Kevin Durant. They're going for it now. But this process has been accelerated, and it's not going to be smooth. They are going to have to figure some of these things out. It doesn't help that the Clippers shot 20 of 37 from three, while the Rockets shot 9 of 30. That's too big a difference. I mean, you get outscored by 33, and then there's a free throw disparity, and then there are turnovers that, it's too many things. Of course they couldn't defend. They were turning the ball over and they were getting back in transition. Of course they were struggling because the Clippers were hitting shots, and they get to go back and set their defense, and you don't, because you're missing a bunch of shots. So yes, the Rockets have to figure some things out. This is not how they wanted things to go. At the same time, again, early December, this is part of the process, and I do think they'll figure it out to some degree.
I don't love it because Kevin Durant's like the most plug and play guy that they could have put on that team, it feels like, and they shouldn't need to figure too much out when you're just putting in a go-to scorer in the one piece they were missing. I get it. It's still early. I kind of look at it through that lens a little bit too and be like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. Let's move on to the team I cover. The New Orleans Pelicans losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers 141-118. Let's go over to Locked On Cavs.
Danny Cunningham here at Rocket Arena after the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the New Orleans Pelicans 141-118. Let's talk about this one for 94 feet. We could have a debate about whether or not the Cavs should have missed Sam Merrill as much as they did. I think that's a fair thing to talk about, but there is no debate that they missed him a lot. Sam came back second game after missing 14 straight with a hand injury, and he was awesome in this game. He hit 6 threes. He was a big part of the reason why the Cavs offense looks elite again. Imagine that. They've looked great both Monday and Tuesday. Now, it hasn't been against the best competition, which certainly is something to keep in mind, but against some poor competition, the Cavs have looked stuck in mud for most of the month. So I do think that this is a team that now can feel pretty good about itself heading into a big Christmas Day matchup in New York against the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell was also pretty good in this game. He had 27 points. Darius Garland didn't look great, but it was the first time that he's played both ends of a back-to-back so far this year. That should be looked at as something that is a positive development. Jared Allen was okay in this game, but overall the Cavs made a lot of shots again. It's the first time this year they've made 23s in back-to-back games. They're starting, at least on the offensive end of the floor, to look like the Cavs again, and that should be the best thing to come out of this week. Now, the Cavs, like I said, take on the New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden on Christmas Day. I will talk to you after that one.
Yeah,
you want a must win? Cleveland against New York, Christmas Day is a must win.
That's fair. After 2 wins against subpar competition, yeah, like this win shouldn't inspire a ton of confidence in the Cavaliers. The Pelicans just played terribly, played no defense. They just left Sam Merrill just wide open. The dude just shoots threes. I don't know what you're doing there. They also couldn't rebound whatsoever. 27 second chance points for the Cavaliers. Final game this segment here, and that is the Charlotte Hornets beating the Washington Wizards 126-109. Chris Middleton led the way for the Wizards here with 16 points. LaMelo Ball with 23 points, 9 assists. Nice little win from them. Diabate, by the way, 12 points, 18 boards as well. Coming up next in today's episode, we're flying through all these on Locked On NBA Game Night here. Y'all see what Cooper Flagg did? Because that dude just delivered a massive win for the Mavs. It's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Holiday season, it's one of the best times for sports. We've got bowl games. We've got Christmas Day NBA games. We've got playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is Prize Picks. It's the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You just pick more or less on at least 2-player projections. Lock in your lineup. You're in the game. Simple, fast, available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, Georgia. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, so it's very quick. The app makes the whole thing smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats, fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. There's an all-new stacks feature. So if you want to pick the same player and pick up to 3 times, pick 3 different stats in that lineup, you can do that. I'm a Patriots guy. I'm going to take Drake May, passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. Plenty to choose from, more or less. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups as after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. We are flying through everything here on Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm going to make, by the way, getting ahead of this, Locked On Mavs my second listen after what Cooper Flagg did against the Denver Nuggets in a 131-130 win. Let's go over to Locked On Mavs.
Hey, listen. If you didn't know by now, Cooper Flagg is him. He's that guy because he was absolutely incredible in this game against the Nuggets. 33 points, 9 assists, 9 boards, hit 4 threes, his career high. Absolutely insane. He had everything going for him against the Nuggets in this game. He was hitting floaters all over the place. He was hitting his threes. He was getting to the basket. He was dunking over guys. Absolute disgusting dunks from Cooper Flagg. And in clutch, he hit a 3, he had another floater, and he was getting doubled by the Nuggets. Absolutely respect from another team, a team that expects to be a championship team. Nuggets came out of this really slow. Mavs took advantage of it in the first quarter, and they basically never recovered. Nuggets took a lead in the fourth quarter. They went back and forth. Mavs ended up closing this, and one of the reasons why they closed it was Anthony Marshawn Davis, 31 points, 9 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals for him, and he was just awesome in this game. Defensively, on offense, getting things going, 12 of 19 from the field. He had a 3 as well. Man, the Mavericks, with Anthony Davis getting doubled early, Cooper Flagg getting doubled late, they were just running that 2-man game, and it was absolutely working for him. The Mavs missed a bunch of guys, too, so I don't want to hear about injuries on the Nuggets side either, because the Mavs were playing Ryan Nembhard, Jaden Hardy, Caleb Martin, D'Angelo Russell, Brandon Williams as their guard rotation. But Dallas Mavericks, probably their best win of the year.
Who's more popular, Cooper Flagg or Nick Angstad, with all the people yelling at him as he's recording that here? You can hear it in the background. That was kind of fun here. Great night from Cooper Flagg. You like to see this early on in his career, him kind of delivering a win against a top-tier team, too.
Yeah, I mean, look, the kid has been ready. The story of him holding his own and playing well in a Team USA scrimmage when he was with the select team, that kind of has been part of the legend. So he's never been afraid of these moments. He's never been afraid of facing, top tier talent. He's, in the fact that he is this young doing this is just amazing. He looks like an NBA player. He looks ready to do this. His demeanor tells me he's ready to do this. I know that the beginning of the season was a little tough, but once you get through that, and once he started learning those lessons, the fact that he's powered through that and is starting to do this now, man, this kid is special. Texas basketball between Wembanyama, Cooper Flagg, and whatever the Houston Rockets can become, that's going to be like the epicenter of the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. For the Nuggets here, 29 points, 14 assists, 7 rebounds for Nikola Jokic, 31-14, also 7. Near identical stat line for Jamal Murray, which is kind of wild to see. Just got nothing from the rest of the starters. Let's move over to the West Coast here, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers losing big time, 132-108 to the Phoenix Suns. No Luka Doncic in this one, so there's that. Let's go over to Locked On Lakers.
Andy Kamenetsky co-hosts Locked On Lakers podcast, and the Lakers lose 132-108 108 to the Suns in Phoenix, their first back-to-back losses of the season. No Luka Doncic, no Rui Hachimura, and no shred or hint of defense in this game for the Lakers. Phoenix shot 59% from the field, 41% from three, 18 of 20 at the line, 62 points in the paint, 21 second chance points. The Lakers botched pick and roll coverage. They botched off-ball coverage. They botched basically every form of defense imaginable in this game. And until they get their proverbial bleep in order on that end of the floor to at least a respectable level, they are going to remain a good but not great team, not good enough team, and a team that is vulnerable to blowouts like the one we saw tonight. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
Also felt like the Suns, particularly Dylan Brooks, might be a little motivated in this one. Dylan Brooks, by the way, 25 points and like no other stats, which is just kind of incredible from him in this one. It's like the weirdest stat line y'all have seen. Look, they don't have Luka Doncic. They don't have Luka Doncic. I'm not going to read too much into this one. Let's move over to the East Coast here with the New York Knicks losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves 115-104. Let's go over to Locked On Wolves.
Minnesota Timberwolves held on to beat the New York Knicks by 11 on Tuesday night. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. And it was a bit touch and go there against a shorthanded Knicks team. No Jalen Brunson, no OG Anunoby. But Karl Anthony Towns went for 40 points in his return to target center for the Knicks. Anthony Edwards had 38 for Minnesota. But really the story of this game was Julius Randle going off for 17 of his 25 points in the fourth quarter as he helped Minnesota surge ahead of his, or I should say, really keep at arm's length, his former team, the New York Knicks. Another big Bones Highland game off the bench as well. Down the stretch, it was about Randle and Highland. Anthony Edwards, again, a big scoring night with 38. Not a whole lot else that he contributed to this one. But Randle on Towns late in the game on both ends of the floor was an advantageous matchup for Minnesota as they were able to beat the Knicks by 11. An important win with the Nuggets looming on Christmas Day for Minnesota. A big win to beat the shorthanded Knicks. And, the depth of Minnesota really shone through, and that's going to be really important as the Timberwolves head into another really difficult stretch in their schedule.
And then final game for this segment here, and that is the Pistons beating the Sacramento Kings 136-127. I don't want to spend much time on this one, John, because I just feel bad for the Kings.
Yes, feeling bad for the Kings is just a perennial. It's like breathing, your heart beating, feeling bad for the Kings. But the Pistons, third in a row, they're just kind of plugging along and doing their thing. They're really good. The Knicks, a little bit of a stumble, but understandable. So those are your two best teams in the East. And the Kings, not so good.
Kings, not so good. 37 points for DeMar DeRozan. That's cool. 23 points, 14 assists.
Hooray.
For Cade Cunningham. We still got 6 games we got to talk about. We're going rapid fire in the third part here of today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. That's coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building with all of these games. Can you imagine being in some of these arenas, the energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everybody on their feet? You want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives you the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Browsing Game Time is a straightforward and intuitive process. Finding tickets takes just a few taps, and you can see the view right from your seat before you buy. I have used the Game Time app plenty when I'm on the road covering the Celtics. I will sometimes be there when there are games going on. There's sometimes baseball or football or WNBA games, and I'll use the Game Time app. It's so easy. They have zone deals. You can unlock great seats at an even better value, and the prices, including the fees, are all up front. No surprises. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKED, LOCKEDONNBA, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action.
And thank you for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We are here 7 days a week covering literally every single game across the association. We are covering 14 of them in tonight's episode. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Make your favorite team your second listen today. Maybe you're just trying to catch up on everything going on around the NBA, but we got a show for you. We also got Locked On Fantasy Basketball with the GOAT, Josh Lloyd, helping you win your league. So we're going to go rapid fire with 6 more games that we've got to touch on here to recap the entire night. And let's start with the Milwaukee Bucks beating the Indiana Pacers 111-94.
The Bucks won a game. The Bucks won a game after being 3-7 over their last 10. The Bucks, who have lost 8 straight road games prior to winning this one in Indy, have won a game. I'm Camille Davis from Locked On Bucks, talking about the Bucks' 111-94 victory over the Pacers. In this game, you saw big contributions from Ryan Rollins and from Kevin Porter Jr. Doc Rivers recently talked about splitting those two up to try to emphasize what both guys do and allow them more time individually on the court. But those two guys are 2 of the Bucks' best players. So it's imperative for them to learn how to play together. So seeing them go off in a game where they really helped fuel this victory for the team was a positive. Now, the next positive for the Bucks to try to do, win back-to-back games for the first time since October 30th, if they can get a win on Friday in Memphis. We'll see.
And let's go over to Locked On Pacers.
Here in Gainbridge Fieldhouse for Locked On Pacers here, where the Pacers just lost to the Bucks 111-94. 94, never a good number to see in the 2025 NBA. Pacers offense, dreadful. 20 points first quarter, 24 in the second and third, continuing a trend from the second half in Boston. They've been struggling to score of late. You can just see it and feel it. It felt in Boston like they were just missing shots. That was not the case today. It felt like something process-wise, rhythm-wise was off offensively in a way that they couldn't generate good shots. They couldn't score much at all. And that dug them too big of a hole that even a spirited fourth quarter where they got to single digits never felt like a real comeback. There's a lot of stats you could talk about from a game where a team shoots quite poorly or can't get it within 9 or 8 or whatever in the second half. But the Pacers just feel kind of broken on offense at the moment. They've had a couple crummy games this week. They've lost 6 games in a row as Rick Carlisle searches for win 1,000. This team's got to find something, whether it's care or process or shooting. They'll try again in this building on Friday. We'll have much more on Locked On Pacers.
I don't know if the Pacers are going to find anything.
No, I don't know who's sprinting behind him on the court there, but maybe they can help.
They need something. All right, that's enough on that game. Let's move on. Just 2 kind of sad teams here. Let's move on to a team that might be considered a sad team soon, and that's the Miami Heat losing 112-91 to the Toronto Raptors. Let's go over to Locked On Raptors for their take.
I think they should just make the entire schedule out of the Miami Heat. Sean here, Locked On Raptors. The Toronto Raptors take down the Miami Heat 112-91 on the road. Their second such win over Miami in the last 8 days. And these Heat games have come at the right time. Miami is struggling even more so than the Raptors are, who were just 4-8 in their last 12 games. 2 of those wins coming against the Miami Heat on the road. And this was a game where the Raptors found a bit of an offensive groove. They've had the worst offense in basketball over the last month or so since R.J. Barrett went out with the knee injury he's still dealing with, though soon returning from, fingers crossed. But against the Heat in this game, they found some good stuff, and their threes were falling in a way they just have not been of late. They've been going through some serious regression to the mean in terms of the three-point accuracy. Started off the season red hot, not so hot of late, but in this game, just a really solid overall performance. Their defense continues to travel, even through their offensive issues. They've maintained a top 10 defense, very much on point tonight as well. Just 91 points allowed to a Heat team that was once the story of the league with their innovative no screens, everyone just drives offense. The Raptors have rendered that pretty useless the last 2 times they've played. And Scottie Barnes deserves a shout for this one. 27 points on 10 of 14 shooting. Carved up the Heat double teams they were sending his way so effectively that they just kind of had to stop doing it. And then he just torched single coverage. Had a massive lefty dunk on Bam Adebayo. The Raptors are far from solving all of their problems. They need R.J. Barrett back. They need Jakob Poeltl back as well. And they need to figure out their offense. But Scottie Barnes, pretty good. And when you have that combination of him being efficient and the defense being absolutely locked in, the Raptors are going to beat the Heat apparently, every time they play them.
Yeah, the Heat are struggling. Let's see their take.
The Miami Heat lost to the Toronto Raptors on Tuesday night and have now dropped 9 of their last 10 games. And it's time to ask some really serious questions. I'm Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat. Nothing was working for the Heat tonight in a home game against the Toronto Raptors. They couldn't make shots. They couldn't stop the Raptors. They seemed overwhelmed and unprepared by Toronto's speed and its physicality in this game. And frankly, this losing stretch has gone on long enough where it's fair to wonder, is this Heat team more like the team it was to start the season when they got out to that 14-7 start and an up-tempo offense that took the league by storm? Or is it more like the team that has struggled for most of the month of December? Something needs to change. Something needs to change, whether it's the scheme or the rotation or the energy, the physicality, whatever it is that this team is lacking. Something needs to give here, because if not, this Heat team could have some serious questions that they have to ask.
They need to be asking those questions now, and it feels like they need some sort of big change.
It's starting to feel like the offensive stuff was maybe a little bit more on the gimmicky side, where you need to create advantages, man. You need to set more picks because you need to create advantages 2-on-1s and draw multiple defenders and get guys open. That it's just simple as that. Like if it's not if that you're not doing that, then it's going to be a struggle.
Pretty much. They got to do something. You remember early on in the season as well, like that early season stuff can be fluky, just like the Chicago Bulls starting 5-0. They did beat the Atlanta Hawks 126-123 though. Let's hear what the Hawks have to say.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland. I'm the host of the Locked On Hawks podcast, and the Hawks have now lost 4 consecutive games, 8 of the last 10, and they are floundering as Christmas arrives. Today, it came in a different way. The Hawks had some brutal defeats over the weekend, including a 2-point loss that was somewhat controversial on Sunday with awesome offense and bad defense. Today, the Hawks led for the vast majority of the night, including by as many as 18 points. They were up by 13 in the fourth quarter and blew that lead because the offense, which had been so good for 3.5 quarters, came to a halt in the fourth. They scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, including a stretch of 2 points in about 5.5 minutes in the important portion of this game. They did come back to tie it with 2 seconds to go on Nikola Jokic-Walker's driving layup, but then the game, I would say, very controversially ended on a off-ball foul call on the inbounds against Zachary Shai against Kobe White, who kindly, I would put it, sold the contact. You could say flopped, you could say accentuated, however you wanted to put that. Certainly, the game ending in that fashion was maddening in its own right. But certainly the Hawks should have never been in that spot anyway. They gave this game away in multiple ways. A frustrating way to end it, and certainly not the way that anyone in Hawks land wanted to go into Christmas break, because this team was only a few weeks ago feeling pretty good about its spot in the Eastern Conference, and now under 500 for the first time in a couple of months. We'll get into all of what transpired and break down in deep dive fashion and more on Locked On Hawks.
And let's stay in the Eastern Conference with the Brooklyn Nets beating the Philadelphia 76ers 114-106. Let's go over to Locked On Sixers.
All the way you wanted to see the 76ers start out this week. What was supposed to be an easy win against the Brooklyn Nets, who sure have been playing a lot better as of late, turned out to be the Sixers trailing by as many as 19 points against the Nets, en route to a 114-106 loss to Brooklyn. Joel Embiid got 27 points. Paul George had 19 points. But Tyrese Maxey had one of his worst shooting displays of the season, as he and Jared McCain, who, by the way, found himself in the starting lineup tonight with no Quentin Grimes, no VJ Edgecombe, McCain and Maxey combined for just 23 points on 6 of 25 shooting. As a team, from beyond the arc, the 76ers had their worst three-point shooting night of the season, making just 7 threes on the evening.
I go, it just ends it there. Like, just 7 threes. That's all we need to say. Drop the mic here. Memphis Grizzlies beat the Utah Jazz 137-128 behind a big night from Santi Aldama with 37 points. Let's go over to Locked On Jazz, though, for their opinion.
The Utah Jazz defense has struggled all season, particularly when Yusuf Nurkic is off the floor, coupled with the Walker Kessler injury. It leaves the Jazz incredibly small and having an inability to defend, and that showed tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. David Locke of Locked on Jazz. The Grizzlies beat the Jazz by the final score of 137-128. The Grizzlies, without Ja Morant and many others, scored their season high 137 points behind 37 from Santi Aldama. They hit 19 of 45 from three. Jazz have been allowing the most open threes of any team in the NBA, and tonight that felt like the case as well. We don't have an official number on it, but the Grizzlies got a lot of very good looks. Good opportunity for a lot of the young Jazz players. Kyle Filipowski had his second double-double of the season, 25 points, 13 rebounds, and 4 assists. Taylor Hendricks came off the bench for a career-high 21 points tonight with 4 rebounds and 3 assists and hit 2 threes. And Keontae George continues his marvelous season. He had 24 points and just 12 shot attempts. Jazz do have a very good offensive night, but just so limited defensively with the personnel, and they fall 137-128 to the Memphis Grizzlies.
All right, final game of the night, John. We've made it. The Orlando Magic beating the Portland Trailblazers 110-106. Let's go to Locked On Magic.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic are heading home with a 110-106 victory over the Portland Trailblazers, thanks in large part to some incredible defense down the stretch, including a block by Desmond Bane, 6'6" Desmond Bane against 7-footer Donovan Clingan, that preserved the game with the Magic leading by only 2 points at the time. This was a frustrating game. Orlando gave up a 19-2 run over the last 2 minutes of the third quarter into the fourth quarter that squandered a very big lead that they really worked well to build, thanks to some surprise contributions from guys like Tyus Jones, who struggled all year, from Jonathan Isaac, who struggled all year, from Noah Penda, from Anthony Black, who scored the majority of his scored 21 points in the first half. But the Magic offense still kind of hits this rut. And this offense now resembles the offense that they had last year, not the 11th ranked offense in the league. Look it up. The Magic right now are just missing so many key offensive pieces. And Paolo Banchero, for better or for worse, isn't Paolo Banchero, not the Paolo Banchero that every defense thinks he is. I thought Paolo did a good job being a decoy and not trying to do too much or not trying to force too much. But the Magic need that downhill force. They need that player who's just going to get them a bucket, especially when they're struggling. But Orlando found their calm after giving up that run. They found their poise. They made the shots they needed to make. They made the stops they needed to make. And you'll take a win however you can get it. The Magic defeat the Blazers, and they head home. Merry Christmas, y'all.
14 games, 28 teams. We did it, John.
We did it. Boy, I got to shut up.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. We appreciate y'all so much for listening. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. Happy holidays. We'll see y'all next week.